Every Thanksgiving in churches all across the world, people bring forward baskets of fruit. We had limited space for our Thanksgiving display this year, but the baskets are still there, and we're thankful to Jill for those. Those baskets trace their history back 3,000 years. They're symbols of the first fruits brought by the children of Israel when they first entered the promised land. It's a beautiful symbol. Although there's a difficulty with the symbol of those baskets today. When the festival of first fruits was instituted, every person was a farmer. That's how it was if you wanted to survive. But today, not many of us are farmers. And therefore, these baskets really are not representative of our first fruits. None of us grow corn or wheat or hay. Well, maybe there's a farmer out there somewhere, I don't know. But I can tell you this much. I once grew corn, and God wouldn't have wanted my corn as an offering. It was bent and small and dried up and withered. I'm not a farmer. I don't bring corn to God as my first fruits. So we need to challenge ourselves and say, what is our first fruit? First fruits represent what you get for your time and your labor and your talent. So what is it today that represents our time and labor and talent that we should bring to God with abundance and with joy? And you all know the answer to that. When you have finished your work at the end of the week, you hope that your employer isn't going to recognize your time and your labor and your talent with a bushel of potatoes. I kind of hope that your employer will give you a paycheck. Money is the representation of our time and our labor and our talent, money that we receive for our work. That is our first fruits. And so the principle of first fruits says that from that symbol of your time and labor and talent, you give the first and the best and your all back to God. And you recognize how worthy and how precious and how sacred that money is. It is the symbol of your life and of your labor. You give your first to God. I hope that all of you, when you're working out your offerings to God and when you're balancing it with your family budget, I hope the first thing in your family budget is your offering to the church. Now, some of you might be tempted to put your mortgage or your car payment or food or clothing or entertainment or travel first and then say, Lord, I'll give you what's left. I'll give you my extra money, Lord. And I have very sad news for you if you're doing that, in that there is no such thing in the world as extra money. At least it's been a very long time since I have heard someone say to me, gosh, Mark, I have a problem. I have too much money. That's about as common as someone saying, I have too much time. Or darn it all, my kids are doing too much housework for me. It's like complaining to Stephen Harper, saying, Stephen Harper, I really wish you could find some way to tax people in my bracket a little bit more, because I've got extra money. There's no such thing as extra money. And if you're giving your extra money and your leftover money to the church, you're not giving your first fruits. Now I know there's someone out there, because I'm a little bit psychic, there's someone out there thinking to themselves, how dare Mark talk Because communion is high and holy and righteous. But money is low and vulgar and dirty. How can Mark imagine that we could put together those two things? And you know, in the Presbyterian Church we have this funny thing that on Communion Sunday, even though on every other Sunday we put the collection plates on the table, on Communion Sunday we wouldn't dare put the offering plates beside the bread and the wine. Because the bread and the wine are sacred, but the money is profane. Well, that's a mistake. Go back to the story of the first fruits. Where did the people bring their first fruits in the temple 3,000 years ago? They brought their first fruits, they brought their offerings, the symbol of their labor and their talent and their time, and they set them in the most holy place. Because those people realized that those symbols of their work and their time were not low or vulgar or crude. That those things, in fact, were high and holy and sacred and sanctified. And so it is on the communion table that the offering belongs. I think perhaps we leave it off here at St. Andrew's just because of a lack of space. But picture in your head the image of the collection plate set down beside the bread and the wine, and recognize in your heart that that is where the money belongs. The two things together. Because the bread and the wine are the symbol of God's first fruits. Jesus Christ, His offering given to us. And the money that we put into our offering plates is the symbol of our first fruits given to God. Both are holy. Both are high and sanctified and blessed. Every dollar in your wallet is a holy dollar because it represents your life. It represents the time God has given you to live. It represents the labor and the strength that God has given you to exert. It represents the talents and the gifts God has given you. So every dollar is sanctified and blessed. Not just because of what it represents to you and your life, but because of what it can become in the service of God. It is with those dollars that we give water to the thirsty children in Africa. It is with those dollars that you once thought were profane that we feed the hungry, that we build medical centers and hospitals and libraries and schools and agricultural programs and irrigation programs for people who are sick and broken and hungry. It is those dollars that built this church. Those dollars as symbols of your time and your labor and your talent. Never forget your money is holy.